Ken's Oil on the outside, and it's a clean start. Very rough, as you can see. These boats are going to be doing a lot of flying today. These deep V-hull craft should really be put through the paces. There you see Wave Hippie taking a big jump right there, but the throttle man is doing an excellent job, and this boat is dialed in quite nicely, as you can see. Wave Hippie taking a quick early lead at this stage in the race. Wave Hippie, Ken's Oil, Crazy Rhythm, all coming to the forefront of today's race. And there, going by the inside of Wave Hippie, that's Crazy Rhythm. Okay, let's stay with Crazy Rhythm. A10, the Crazy Rhythm race team. This is a 28-foot red and white Magnum racing hull powered by two 350 horsepower Chevy inboard motors with Merc TRS outdrive. This boat is owned by Joe Turek of St. Charles, Illinois. Throttling today, we've got Dave Belkovson from Mount Clemens, Michigan, and your navigator is Mike Hendrickson from St. Charles, Illinois. Joey Turek really doing the job driving today, and Dave's doing a great job on the throttles. This boat is dialed in extremely well for these rough racing conditions, and they've taken a quick early lead at this point in the race. This boat is sponsored by Tanglewood Marine, and they are Rookie of the Year. Helping out on the crew is Lori Turek and Linda Hendrickson. So everyone's getting involved here in the Crazy Rhythm race team, and they're looking very strong at this point in the race. Crazy Rhythm has had a relatively successful 1991 campaign. They took a third place in Muskegon and a second place in Lake St. Clair, thus putting them in third place overall points of the Great Lakes points total. So with a strong performance here, that'll certainly improve Crazy Rhythm's overall points in the battle for the ultimate champion in the Great Lakes region. So we wish Joey Turek and the rest of the Crazy Rhythm race crew all the best here today in Chicago. Crazy Rhythm having a very good run. They're going to be hard to catch here today in Chicago. Look at the many spectators lining the shores of Lake Michigan. This has been an excellent weekend of entertainment, air and sea, for the spectators. Good job of throttling by Dave Belkovson right there. On the far outside, closest to the shore, that's Ricochet Race Team. You have an A-Division boat on the outside, and now we come up on B-19, the Ricochet Race Team with the Chicago skyline in the background. Lakeshore Drive right there, and what an exciting place this is for a race. And Ricochet is really heating up this race course right now. That 26-foot Seahawk, powered by two 245 horsepower Mercury outboard motors, is really being put through the paces here today by Ken Leahy from Grand Haven, Michigan, who's your owner and throttle man. And driving today is Jim Tyler from Muskegon, Michigan. So Tyler and Leahy making up the Ricochet race team, and they're really ricocheting around this race course right now. Very good ride right here, and this Lake Michigan can be gentle, but it can be rough, and right now it is really putting the boats through the paces, as you can see. The Ricochet race team. Already in 1991, the Ricochet race team took a third place in the Muskegon race and a sixth place at Lake St. Clair, thus putting them in the 8th place position overall in the national points of the Great Lakes region. However, there are so many boats bunched up in the middle of the Sportsman B division that a good finish here for Ricochet will really help them out in the overall standings. And right now, they're running first place in class right now, and they're looking extremely strong. Just look at this race boat propel itself over the waters right here. Excellent attitude, and they're doing a very fine job. We wish Ken Leahy and Jim Tyler all the best here today in Chicago. They would like to extend some thanks to Budweiser, Ackenoff Realty, and Large Moving Storage for the help that they've given this team in some sponsorship. You saw that jump right there. Ricochet is really having a hard ride right now. However, they still are in the lead in class, and it is going to be a rough ride today over those 66 statute miles. But Ricochet is up to the test, and they're really moving nicely throughout this course. Now we come up on B17, the Desperado race team. This is a 33-foot fountain racing hull powered by two 420 horsepower Mercury inboard motors with Mercury route drive. This boat is owned by Joe and Sandy Penix from Toledo, Ohio. Joe does the driving. On throttles, we've got Greg Garrison from Toledo, Ohio, and your navigator is Randy Eastwood, also from the Toledo, Ohio area. The Desperado race team, and they are having a relatively successful campaign. Already for 1991, they're fourth overall in total points for the Great Lakes Division, and they've compiled that with the following results. They took a 10th place in the Monroe race, which was followed up by a very good run in the 3rd place in Lake St. Clair, and at Lorraine, they took a 4th place. So they have built on their first 10th place finish, and this is thus putting them in the 4th place overall in the points. So they would really like to have a good showing here in Chicago to put them in a top 3 position in the Offshore B Division. And this boat looks very strong right now. The competition is extremely tough in B Division. We already saw Ricochet, and they look like very tough competition. But personally, this Desperado boat is dialed in quite nicely. It has a good attitude here in the water, and I think this boat is going to give Ricochet a run for the money here today. They look just as strong, and they're going to try to make up some ground right now between themselves and Ricochet. From Chicago, Illinois, it's the Desperado race team. Nice job of throttling right there. Really starting to pick up the rhythm and the speed right now. This boat is moving quite nicely. Now we come up on another B boat. It's B28, the Joanna Race Team. It's a 36-foot fountain racing hull powered by two 420 horsepower Mercury inboards with TRS outdrive. This boat is owned and throttled by Bruce Sperling of Palos Heights, Illinois, and navigating today is Donald Cooper from Orlando Park, Illinois. The Joanna Race Team, these is a rookie team, and they're having a very good run right now in their local waters here in Chicago. They'll be dueling most of the day, I'm sure, with Desperado, Ricochet, Catnip. The competition is tough in B, but this group really seems to be up for it. Although they're rookies, they have a very good racing hull. That fountain racing hull is a proven race boat, and with those two 420 horsepower Mercury inboards providing the power plant, this boat is certainly one to be reckoned with. Sperling and Cooper seem to be very comfortable in their boat right now, and I think they're going to be right there at the finish also. From the shores of Chicago, Illinois, it's the Joanna Race Team. With the run that they're having right here, I'm sure we'll be seeing Sperling and Cooper in the Joanna Race Team throughout the rest of 91. They look very tough right now, and we'd love to see them throughout the rest of the races here in the Great Lakes region. Now we come up on a battle that's been raging throughout the year. Both competitors acknowledge each other, and now we're set to battle. It's Ken's Oil on the inside, Wave Hippie on the outside. This battle has been going on since the very first race in Muskegon, and it is going on right here off the shores of Chicago. Let's highlight this battle. Ken's Oil on the inside has had a great year. He's taken a second place in Muskegon, a second place in Monroe, a fourth place in Lake St. Clair, and a first place in Lorraine, putting him with a total of 365 points for a second place overall in the Great Lakes region. This has been countered by Wave Hippie's very good runs also. He had a first place finish in Muskegon, a first place in Monroe, a first place in Lake St. Clair, and a third place in Lorraine, giving him a total of 396 points. So with some quick arithmetic, there is 1 point separating Wave Hippie on the outside, Ken's Oil on the inside, and right now in Lake Michigan, off the shores of Chicago, Illinois, this battle continues to wage on, and we've really got a battle going right now. Ken's Oil on the inside is a 28-foot Magnum, powered by two 260 horsepower McFadden inboard motors with Merc Cruiser drive. This boat is owned and throttled by Ken McMartin of Richmond, Michigan. Rick Lash from Warren, Michigan is your driver, and navigating today is Leanne Abel from Port Huron, Michigan. Ken McMartin, what a year he's having, and they're having an excellent run right now in Chicago. Ken's Oil, and what a boat this is, and we know it's going to go right down to the wire in A division between Ken's Oil and Wave Hippie. Now we come up on Wave Hippie. This boat, another tough boat. It's a 28 offshore racing boat powered by two 450 horsepower Chevy inboard motors with Merc Cruiser drive. This boat is owned by Kinky Sunneveldt in Spring Lake, Michigan. Driving today, we've got Lance Sunneveldt from Grand Haven, Michigan. Mac R. Kinky from Spring Lake, Michigan is your throttle man, and navigating is Doug Papa from Grand Haven, Michigan. What a team this has been, headed up by Kinky and Sunneveldt of the Wave Hippie race team. And they are a very strong team. They're running 1-2 right now with themselves and Pennzoil, who you just earlier on, and I guarantee you from watching these two boats, it's going to go right down to the finish line for first place in A Division. They would like to thank their sponsors, Valaka Racing Engines, Magnum Packaging, and Quality Great Lakes Casters. They would like to give a very special thanks to Jim Valaco for everything that he's done, and to everyone who donates their time to make these races happening and ensuring Wave Hippie a very successful 1991 campaign. As you can see, this boat is dialed in exceptionally well right now. Navigator lining them up for the next checkpoint, and this boat is on a course for the checkered flag and probably an end battle with Pennzoil, who we just saw earlier on. The Wave Hippie race team having an excellent run here today, as they always have throughout 1991 in Chicago, Illinois. That was Catnip that they just passed, and there you see once again that battle going on. Pennzoil on the inside, Wave Hippie on the outside, and you have less than a boat length separating these two between first and second place. I'm sure this one will be going right down to the wire. It's virtually dead even. Pennzoil Wave Hippie really putting on a show for the spectators, and I'm sure the adrenaline is flowing in all of these race crews. Pennzoil starting to take stretching out his lead right now over Wave Hippie, but certainly not a threat to Wave Hippie because he knows what it takes. He knows what he has, and he certainly knows what Pennzoil has. These are hardened competitors, true tested. And there you see Wave Hippie making his move on the outside. It gets no better than this. Offshore Powerboat racing put on by the APBA. It gets no better than this out here on the shores of Lake Michigan. Now we're going to come up on B84, the Catnip race team. It's a 23-foot eliminator racing hull powered by a single 450 horsepower Chevrolet inboard motor with Merc Cruiser outdrives. This boat is owned and throttled by Greg Denboer of Kentwood, Michigan, and Mark Pressler from Grant, Michigan is your navigator. The Catnip race team, and they've had a relatively successful 1991 campaign. They got the year started off with a first place in Muskegon. They took a fourth place in Monroe, and that put them in an overall fifth place position in the points of the Great Lakes region. So they would like nothing more than to have a good finish here to move them up in the standings. And they're dueling with Joanna, Ricochet, Desperado, among some of the other boats. The Catnip seems to be dialed in very well right here. He's got a catamaran hull where most of the boats we've been seeing before are deep V's. The deep V's can certainly do a little better here in the rough waters, but the Cats are also a proven hull in these rough racing conditions. If this boat is only 23 feet, it is a Cat, and he's going to take a little more of a pounding than some of your V-bottom boats. But nonetheless, these two are true competitors, and they know what it takes to win a race here in the Great Lakes region. From Chicago, Illinois, it's the Catnip Race Team. Now we come up on A6, the Excalibur Race Team. This is a 27-foot well-crafted Excalibur racing hull powered by a 468 cubic inch Chevrolet motor prepared by NewTek Dyno Engineering and Development, putting 590-plus horsepower to a Merc Cruiser TRS outdrive. Today's crew is as follows. This boat is owned and driven by Tom Alf of Buffalo, New York. Navigating today, we've got Joe DeBurgeralis, Joey D, as he's commonly known, from Buffalo, New York, and throttleman Bruce Bonhoff of the Independence Offshore Race Team, who is throttling today in place of Al Homer of East Orange, New York. The Excalibur race crew took a first place in 1990 Erie Offshore Classic in Erie, PA. The Excalibur race team would like to thank their sponsors: Breakers on the waterfront in Buffalo, New York, a diving and drinking experience; Sun Capsule Canning Centers of Olean, New York; and Martin IV Pain Reliever from Upjohn. A very special thanks goes to Pete Milsbaugh at NewTek Dyno and Engineering, Joe Tremblay at Specialty Fiberglass, and Alex Murchison at East Pier Marina. All these people have come together with a combined effort to really help out the Excalibur race team to have a successful campaign. They're also having a very good run. At the present point in time, the A and B division is starting to draw to a close. Let's just summarize what we've gotten up to this point in the race. In A division, it's a battle going on right now with Wave Hippie, Ken Zoyle, Crazy Rhythm, and Excalibur right here are all going neck and neck for your top 3 spots in the Sportsman A division. In B division, it's a battle between Desperado, Joanna, and Catnip going all out for the top 3 spots in Offshore B. So that basically summarizes what the closing stages of today's race is coming down to. We're going to bring you the final results of Offshore A and Offshore B after we finish Sunday's race, which will be covering Offshore C and Offshore D. So once Sunday's event has been completed, we will bring you all of the final results of this 2-day event in Offshore A, B, C, and D, which will capsulize the 1991 Valvoline Powerboat Challenge. Sunday's race. It looks very choppy out here in Lake Michigan. Right there in your picture, that's Matchless and First Defense. We're going to be going with Offshore D and Offshore C. We'll also be running 66 miles. There you see red line on the outside. These are some of the bigger boats. Offshore C and Offshore D. Breakout, Gotcha, Wildcat, Just for the Rush, Matchless, First Defense, Valvoline, Doubles Pizza, Flying Tiger, Mr. Goodwrench, Team Believer, Rainbow, Cup Cup, just to name a few. There's Mr. Goodwrench, and there's the Pace Boat. Summer wind bringing the contestants out. Mr. Goodwrench, this big racing boat right there, and they look very tough. That 38-foot Bertram is a proven race hull. Summer wind, the Pace Boat, is starting to bring them out. Starter holding up the red flag. The Summer Wind crew with the thumbs up sign. They're going to be bringing this group out for the exciting start in the final day of competition in the 1991 Valvoline Powerboat Challenge. What a weekend it's been, with the Chicago Park District's Budweiser Air and Water Show, as well as the offshore powerboat activities here on the water. It's been one awesome display for all the spectators to see all this machinery brought here for one exciting weekend of air and water sports, and the spectators have really been treated to some great thrills. But right now, the powerboat industry is going to come out with the best that it's got here today. Offshore D&C, some big boats. And there, with the sunny skies and the sunlit skyline of Chicago, we're going to get this race underway. We've got over 12 boats entered here for this competition, which promises to be a good one. As you see, we've got a very clear day. Should make for some good navigation. However, we're going to have some rough seas and some rough water racing conditions. There's the lone Pace Boat. The orange flare is up. The red flag is up, thus indicating all contestants come out of the milling area, start getting on plane, and in just moments, the final stage, Offshore D&C of the 1991 Valvoline Powerboat Challenge from Chicago, Illinois, will officially be underway. Just like to say at this point that everyone at Freeze Frame is very excited to be here from New York to cover today's race. Coming out of the milling area, we've got Tough Enough, Mr. Goodwrench, Team Believer Rainbow, Doubles Pizza, First Defense is there, Flying Tiger, Valvoline, Matchless. They're all coming up and getting on plane. This race is just moments away from going green. That's Tough Enough on the inside. Mr. Goodwrench in the middle of your picture. There you see the Pace Boat with a green flag up, and Tough Enough got off to a great start. He was on the outside, had no one in his way, and he got off to a fantastic start. That's Doubles Pizza right there in the bottom of your picture. So we've got Mr. Goodwrench right there. But meanwhile, Tough Enough with a good lead. Mr. Goodwrench in the middle of your picture. Doubles Pizza on the inside coming up. And right now we're going to go with your two leaders. That's First Defense on the inside and Tough Enough on the outside. What a good start. Tough Enough in first place right now. First Defense on the inside. And Matchless coming up to join the hunt. He really made up some ground, and he is flying right now. Matchless has moved a boat length lead over First Defense and in second place. Tough Enough with that exciting hull shot out of the start is in first place. And right now we're going to stay with the First Offense race team. Now we're going to go with D555, the First Offense race team. It's a 32-foot skater powered by three 275 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and throttled by Mike Novick of Detroit, Michigan. Driving today is Ruff Wilkins from Bluffton, Indiana. And Mike Novick also does the navigation details. The First Offense race team headed up by Mike Novick. Already this year, he took a fourth place in the Lorraine race earlier on in 1991. And that's Matchless on the outside. First Defense on the inside, taking second place, but Tough Enough is still out there in first place. Bill is doing an outstanding job on the throttles. A lot of the boats now are starting to spread out and find their own natural positions, and they've got over 60 miles of racing ahead of them, so they don't have to go all out right away, but they are going to try to find where they're comfortable in their boat in these weather conditions, and at the certain stages of the race, they are going to go for it and really try to make their moves. There you get an idea of some of the many thousands of spectators lining the shores here of Lake Michigan to view an outstanding APBA-sanctioned event. First defense is running very smoothly right now over the tops of the water right here. Excellent attitude. The boat is dialed in quite nicely, and a real good overhead shot from the first defense race team in action. On the outside, that's Coming Up, and on the inside, that's Matchless, with a historic Chicago skyline in the background. What a great backdrop for an offshore powerboat race. Let's highlight D18, the Matchless race team. This is a 32-foot racing capo powered by three 275 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and throttled by Roy Howman of Chicago, Illinois, and Nicholas Gaglione of Chicago, Illinois is your driver. So Howman and Gaglione making up the Matchless race team. And right now they are unmatched. They are doing a great job, and they are starting to extend a slight lead over Coming Up. So unofficially, this is your first place boat in class, and they're enjoying a very fine run here in their home waters in Chicago. This boat is moving right now. This is one of the calmer legs of the race course toward the inner coast there, as you can see, and this boat is really starting to make up time. Now we're out in the upper portion, and you can see how much rougher it is. That's Coming Up on the outside, Matchless on the inside, and here you see a battle going on, not only with the racing conditions themselves and the rough water conditions, but Coming Up and Matchless are really going at it. These are two D boats side by side, waging a full battle. This one looks like it's going to go right down to the wire before we have a winner in Offshore D. And these boats should be there at the end because they're really putting on a show right now. Matchless on the inside, Coming Up on the outside, and we wish both teams nothing but the best. Howman doing an outstanding job in the throttles. As the boat comes out of the water, Howman gets the throttle right down as soon as those props re-engage to the surface of the water. Now we come up on C96, the Just for Rush race team. It's a 33-foot fountain powered by two 420 horsepower Mercury inboard motors with Merc Cruiser outdrive. This boat is owned and navigated by Jeff Pilot of Coldwater, Michigan. Jeff is also doing the driving. The throttling for him today has got Get Geldof of Stevensville, Michigan. So Haylett and Geldof making up the Just for the Rush race team. And right now they are rushing toward the lead. They're having a very good run right now, and they're presently in first place. Of course, this is unofficial, but they are unofficially in first place as they are rushing toward the lead and trying to hold on to it. This fountain race hull is a proving race hull, and it can certainly take whatever Lake Michigan has to give out for today's race. Geldof doing an outstanding job on the throttle, and Haylett is really doing another fine job as well, propelling this boat around this 11-mile lap race course. Looking very good, and this boat is certainly going to be hard to catch in C-class for the rest of the boats, but we'll have to wait and see. Still a lot of racing to go. From Chicago, Illinois, it's Jeff Haylett just for the Rush Race Team. Just for the Rush, having a great run here today. Now coming into the picture is the Valvoline Race Team, D5. It's a 31-foot Predator powered by two 750 horsepower Chevrolet inboard motors with Merc Cruiser outright. This boat is owned by H&S Marine Incorporated of Southfield, Michigan. Dan Humes from Mount Clemens, Michigan is your driver of record. Dan is doing the throttling. Driving today is Mark Walter of Washington, Michigan, and Darrell Walter from Mount Clemens, Michigan is your navigator. So Humes and Walters making up the Valvoline Race Team, and they are running extremely strong. They would like to thank a few very special people. Of course, the sponsor of today's race, Valvoline, for all the help that they've given this race team. Race Motors by Shipwreck Marine in Detroit, Michigan, and a very special thanks to Michael Bennett at Shipwreck. ProTech, a very special thanks to Dan and Cheryl Peterman. I'd also like to thank New Appearance Auto and Boat Reconditioning, H.N. Langle Company in Detroit, Michigan, and Pancho and Cisco's Restaurant in Detroit, Michigan. All these people coming together so generously to help the Valvoline Race Team. Valvoline headed up by Dan Humes, Darrell Walter, Mark Walter, and of course the H&S Marine Incorporation of Southfield, Michigan. There are the 1989 Divisional National World Championships in Class B and the Michigan Triple Crown 1989 winner. Dan Humes is doing an outstanding job of throttling the Valvoline race boat at this point in the race. Really strong running boat right here. And in 1991, it has been very good for this team. Firmly under the Peppers banner, they took a third in Monroe and a first at Lake St. Clair, thus putting them third place overall in the Grand Lakes points total. So with a strong finish here for Valvoline, that will certainly keep them in a good position in the top three for Offshore D. And being that they are the sponsored boat here, Valvoline being your official sponsor of today's race, this is the Valvoline race boat. What better way to celebrate it than with a victory here today? And Danny Humes would like nothing more than to bring the Valvoline racing boat into the victory circle. They're running very strong. They look very good at this point in the race. And we wish Dan Humes and the rest of the Valvoline race crew all the best here today in Chicago, Illinois. The Valvoline race team, D5. D is about it. Valvoline is there. Really doing a fine job on the throttle. Huffino, Mr. Goodwrench, Team Believer, Doubles Pizza, all there. Max, they're all going at it. And in Offshore C, just for the Rush, is really having a good run. And He's trying to hold off Breakout, Gotcha, and some other boats. And we'll be catching up with some of them a little later on in today's race. But right now, Danny Newton and the valvoline race team really putting this boat through the paces. Depot, the valvoline race team, having an outstanding run. Under the Peppers Racing banner, 1989 was an excellent year for them. They took first place in every race. In Sandusky, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Monroe, Michigan, Bay City, Michigan, Lake St. Clair, Michigan, Grand Haven, Michigan, Traverse City, Michigan, and Atlantic City, New Jersey, where the national championship was held. They were the 1989 Central Division High Point champions, the winner of the 1989 Great Lakes Trophy, Michigan Triple Crown of Offshore Powerboat Racing, and they were undefeated in '89 with 8 straight first-place finishes, thus crowning themselves as the 1989 national champions in Sportsman B class. 1990, they took a third in Bay City, Michigan, and a second in Point Huron, Michigan. The 1990 race season was basically a developmental season after winning the '89 national championship. Testing and rigging were their main objectives to prepare for the 1991 season, and thus far, they've come out and they are having an excellent 1991 season. Now we come up on Team Redline, boat number C42. This is a 26-foot Redline Marine Corporation racing hull powered by two 275 horsepower Brunswick outboard motors. This boat is owned and throttled by Bill Reich of East Detroit, Michigan. Jim Foran is your driver and navigator from Farmington Hills, Michigan. So the crew of Reich and Foran making up the Team Redline race team. Team Redline is third overall in points in the Great Lakes region. They had a third place in Muskegon, a second place in Monroe, a disappointing 6th place finish in Lake St. Clair, but came back with a 3rd place finish in Loran. And on the very far outside, that's First Defense, dueling with Team Redline. Team Redline is your 1988 and 1989 defending national champion. Their sponsors are Micro Switch, which is a division of Honeywell, and E&B Discount Marine, as well as Mercury Marine, CRS Service Incorporated, KVH Azimuth, Compass Systems, National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and Prestige Stamping, and Redline Marine. The Team Redline race team races for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. They would like to thank Bob Sorgan at CRS Service, Bernie DeWolf at Microswitch, division of Honeywell Corporation, Joe Allen, who's the crew chief of Marine Masters in Wyandotte, Michigan, Scott Porterfield of E&B Discount Marine, and all the many friends and additional sponsors who have helped make this team so successful. They've had 52 races in a row without a breakdown, and that's certainly a tribute to all the people who have helped Team Redline becoming a success for the 1991 campaign. They'll be dueling with Breakout, Just for the Rust, Gotcha, and Wildcat, Team Redline, and they are going to have a good run today. With all the help and the consistency that they've had, we certainly wish them a good run here too today in Chicago. C42, the Team Redline racing team. The port motor does not seem to be running so well right now. There seems to be some problem with it, and the water is kicking up, and they could be a little down in power right there with that motor having the problem as you see. Could be a tough mechanical break for Team Redline. Now we come up on D4, the Mr. Goodwrench race team. is a 38-foot black Bertram powered by two 700-horsepower Chevrolet inboard motors with Merc Cruiser drive. This boat is moving right now. Locked in a tough battle with Tough Enough, Team Believer, and Doubles Pizza at this point in the race. There's some of the spectators getting a great view as they go by the pier right there and that scenic Chicago skyline in the background. This boat is owned by Angels Onken Offshore in Princeville. This boat is throttled by Don Onken of Easton, Illinois. Driving today is Jim Angels of Princeville, Illinois, and navigating is Phil McCombs of Peoria, Illinois, an all-Illinois race team making up the Mr. Goodwrench race team. And they've had a relatively, extremely successful 1991 campaign. Mr. Goodwrench already this year has taken a 4th place in Muskegon, a 2nd place finish in Monroe, and a 4th place finish in Lake St. Clair, putting him in 2nd place overall in the points on the Great Lakes National Region. So a strong finish here today for Mr. Goodwrench will certainly improve his standings in the top 3 positions on the Great Lakes region. They would like to thank Onkins Incorporated and Jim Angels Chevrolet for the sponsorship that they've helped in the Mr. Goodwrench race team. From Chicago, Illinois, it's D4, the Mr. Goodwrench race team. Onken doing an outstanding job on the throttles for Mr. Goodwrench. There you see him coming out of the water, and he re-engages those throttles so they lose very little time. The Mr. Goodwrench race team. Now we come up on C24, the breakout race team. There's a 32-foot Maverick powered by two 575-horsepower Chevy inboard motors with Merc Cruiser outdrives. This boat is owned and driven by Al Gerstenberger of Mount Clemens, Michigan. Chuck Herr from Plymouth, Michigan is on throttles, and Brad Grathmiller from Mount Clemens, Michigan is your navigator. The breakout race team. And throughout 1991, they have broken out. They took a 6th place finish in Muskegon, followed by a very exciting 3rd place finish in Monroe, and they came back with a 1st place finish in Lake St. Clair. That put them in 4th place overall in points for the Great Lakes region, and not many points separating themselves and Team Redline, who is in 3rd place right now. So these guys are going all out to see what they can do to try to make up some points and pick up points in the national standings. They're presently running in 2nd place behind Just for the Rush, and they are holding off some of the other boats, Wildcat, Team Believer, and Gotcha. So if things stay like that, this is really going to help the points for the breakout race team here today and move them in a top 3 position in the Great Lakes region. But right now, they're having an outstanding run. It's a little rough, but they are making good time nonetheless. Al Gerstenberger's breakout race team from Chicago, Illinois. Al Gerstenberger is doing an outstanding job of throttling the breakout race team. And if things continue as they are, this will really help his standings in the national points in the Great Lakes region. Al Gerstenberger's breakout race team. That's Team Believer going on the outside of Flying Tigers. Team Believer making a nice move going around Flying Tigers. Now we come up on D9, the Flying Tiger race team. And on the outside of him, that's Team Believer, D58. Great battle shaping up here in Offshore D between Team Believer on the outside and Flying Tiger on the inside. Neck and neck, a dead even heat at this point in the race between these two boats. Now we're going to highlight D9, the Flying Tiger race team with Team Believer on the outside. The Flying Tiger race team, it's a 30-foot Chris Cat powered by 2 800-horsepower Tiger Marine inboard motors with Merc Cruiser outdrives. This boat is owned and driven by Sonny Hawkins of Elma, New York. Navigating is Sonny Hawkins, and Tina Blizniak from Elma, New York is your throttle person. So Sonny and Tina making up the Flying Tiger race team. This unique twin F-16 canopy deck, which was designed by Sonny, is fully removable and can be electrically opened for service work in preparation for races. Sonny would like to thank his crew, Dave Gercio and Paul Witowski, for the many hours of time to prepare Flying Tiger for this season's competition. And that's Breakout. You see the wake of Breakout on the very near inside. Team Believer going by on the outside, Flying Tiger in the middle of your picture, and there you see the wake of Breakout. So we've got excellent racing right now between Breakout, which is a C Division boat, and Team Believer and Flying Tiger, which is Offshore D. There you've got it right there in your picture. Breakout on the inside, Flying Tiger in the middle, and Team Believer on the outside. And there goes Flying Tiger. Tina really putting that throttle down and making a move right there and making a statement. Flying Tiger going by those two boats, and Tina did a great job of throttling through that congested area. Sonny would also like to thank his sponsors and supporters. Getz Oil, Oliver Billet Rods, Arrowquip, VDO Instruments, NewTek Dyno Engineering, Ed's Marine Canvas, Morse Controls, and MaxCat Technologies, Linder Design, and the Sign Shop. Flying Tiger is currently playing catch-up after starting late due to difficulties at the start. This is only the second time out for Flying Tiger this season, and it's still being dialed in for peak performance. But right now, it's looking very strong, and that was a good move through that congestion, and Flying Tiger is having a good run here in Chicago. Sonny Hawkins, Flying Tiger Race Team. There you get a good look at those F-16 racing capsules with Sonny and Tina tucked away nicely. Flying Tiger taking a big jump right there. We were right on top of that one, and you really got an idea of just how far they came out of the water. They seem okay, and they are moving along. And on the far outside, that's Team Believer. Oh, taking a very similar jump. And their Team Believer is starting to take a slight lead over Flying Tiger. What a good bit of racing right there. Now we're going to come up on D58, the Team Believer race team. There's a 31-foot Express powered by three 240 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. And what a year they've been having in 1991. They're in first place in the national points in the Great Lakes region. They took a second at Muskegon, they took a first place in Monroe, a third place at Lake St. Clair, and a second place in Lorraine, thus giving them a very comfortable lead over Mr. Goodwrench, who is in second place in Offshore D. This boat is owned by Robert Martin of Washington, Michigan. Bob does the throttles, driving is R. Scott Martin of Washington, Michigan, and Tony Zedan of Washington, Michigan is your navigator. Bob Martin doing an outstanding job of throttling for Team Believer. And what a season Team Believer, the Rainbow Connection, has had. They were first place in 1989, first place in 1990, high point so far in 1991, and they are working on the three-peat concept of getting a championship right here. They would like to thank for commercial endorsements the Rainbow Connection, and they would like to state that this is a Christian race boat, hence the Team Believer racing concept, and this crew does believe. Everyone involved with Team Believer believes. And right now they are believing because Team Believer is having an outstanding run. That's breakout on the inside of Team Believer. Team Believer going around on the outside and just enjoying an overall excellent run. That's breakout on the inside, Team Believer on the outside. Different divisions of boat, Offshore D being for Team Believer and C for the breakout race team. From Chicago, Illinois, enjoying a very good run and probably going to be adding to his points in the Great Lakes region, it's Robert Martin's Team Believer Rainbow. Bob Martin doing an outstanding job of throttling the Team Believer race boat. Toughen Up coming off a beautiful jump right there. They didn't miss a beat, doing an outstanding job. D32, the Toughen Up race team. And that's Breakout ahead of Toughen Up. However, different division boat. Breakout, the boat that just won't go away, and C Division having a great run, and Toughen Up, who is really charging now in Offshore D. The Toughen Up race team. This 32-foot skater cat is powered by three 250 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and throttled by Mark Weigel of Cambridge, Ontario, and Dana Weigel, also from Cambridge, Ontario, is your driver. So Mark and Dana Weigel making up the Toughen Up race team, and right now they do seem toughen up because they are in a battle with Valvoline, Mr. Goodwrench, Team Believer, Doubles Pizza, Flying Tiger. A great battle is going on here in Offshore D, and the Weigels are in the thick of it right now. Toughen Up. There they're starting to pull up around toward the pier, and with the skyline of Chicago in the background, it's just been an outstanding weekend of entertainment for some of the many spectators who are lining the shores of Lake Michigan. And there you'll see Valvoline on the outside, so this is your battle for first place shaping up right now in Offshore D. Weigel is really going for it right now, but Mark Walter and Dan Humes and Darrell Walter of the Valvoline race team, I'm sure, are up to the challenge. Weigel really going for it right now in Toughen Up. This is for the lead in Offshore D. And there's Team Believer also in the hunt. Toughen Up going by Team Believer. So Weigel making his move has just passed Team Believer. And going in a locked in a tough battle with Valvoline. And there goes Valvoline on the outside. This is what it's all about. You are seeing offshore powerboat racing at its best between two champions. Daniel Hume's Valvoline race team and the Weigels in Toughen Up. There you see two boats going at it. Toughen Up and Valvoline. Team Believer hanging in there in third place. So you've got Valvoline, Toughen Up, and Team Believer. What a battle being waged here in Offshore D off the shores of Chicago in Lake Michigan. Wildcat being passed by Toughen Up, and that was a close pass. It's a little rough out there, and these boats are going all out. Toughen Up really going for it. He knows what he's got to do to overtake the Valvoline race team. What a battle going on. Mark Weigel doing an excellent job of throttling the Toughen Up race team. He's really putting those Mercury motors to the test. Now we come up on the Wildcat race team. There's a 25-foot Express powered by two 250 horsepower Yamaha outboard motors. This boat is owned and driven by Ron Giff of Union Pier, Michigan, and throttling today is Bray Myers of Elkhart, Indiana. Myers and Giff making up the Wildcat race team. And they're in a battle right now with Team Redline in Offshore C. They had a fourth place in Muskegon so far this year, and they're looking to add to that point total with a good finish here today in Chicago. However, C right now is very tough with Just for the Rush, Breakout, Gotcha going right all out. And boats trying to catch up in the C division are Team Redline and Wildcat, trying to make up some ground now between themselves and the leader, C25, the Wildcat race team. On the outside of Wildcat, who just took a big jump, that's Flying Tiger. Flying Tiger a D-boat, Wildcat a C-boat. We're starting to draw to the closing stages of this race, so these drivers are going to have to make their moves. That's Mr. Goodwrench on the outside. Goodwrench having a good run in Offshore D, dueling with Tough Enough and Team Believer and Valvoline. Now we come up on C76, Gotcha Race Team. It's a 33-foot Excalibur racing boat powered by three 265 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and throttled by Chris DeYoung of Glenwood, Illinois. Driving today is Bill Anker Jr. of Linwood, Illinois, and navigating is Bruce Olson from Maryville, Indiana. The Gotcha Race Team. Gotcha Race Team is presently in second place nationally in the points in the Great Lakes region. They took a 5th place in Muskegon, a 4th place in Monroe, a 1st place in Lake St. Clair, and a 2nd place in Loran. So they're really looking to stay in that top 3, and right now they are doing just that. They're fighting with just for the rush, breakout, and they're doing extremely well at the present point in time. The chief mechanic of this team is Joe Zotek, crew chief Dan Zimborski, and they would like to extend a very special thanks to their sponsors: 76 Auto Truck Stops, Press Express Trucking, Autometer Competition Instruments, AC Delco, Knoll Brothers, Quality Welding, and Holiday Boat Sales. Last year they finished 3rd in the Nationals, so they would really like to have a successful 1991 campaign, which they already have. So with a good finish here today, Gotcha hopefully will be able to build on their 2nd place overall standings in the Great Lakes region for national points. From Chicago, Illinois, it's the Gotcha Race Team. Now we come up to D79, the Doubles Pizza Race Team. There's a 31-foot Conquest Cat powered by three 280 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned by Bob Baker of Marysville, Michigan. Driving today is Tim Baker from Port Huron, Michigan, throttling and navigating Jim Baker from Port Huron, Michigan. The Bakers making up the Doubles Pizza Race Team, and they are having a good run at this present point in time. They're locked in a battle with Tough Enough, Goodwrench, Team Believer, Doubles Pizza, Valvoline, Flying Tiger, Matchless. Everyone is just going for it right now. They are starting to head toward the finish. We're in the final stages of today's race. Doubles Pizza already has a second place under its belt in the race held this year in Lake St. Clair. So they would really like to have a good finish here and capitalize and try to climb the ladder in the points battle in the Great Lakes region. They would like to thank their sponsors: Doubles Pizza, Zebra Bar, Tiger Fiberglass, Hammers Welding, Ron's Truck Stop, 76 Auto Truck Stop, Peter Ells of Port Huron, Michigan, and Dave Schneider's Mac Tools. This is Doubles Pizza's 6th year on the circuit, and they'd really like to have a good campaign throughout 91. So right now we're going to stay with Doubles Pizza. The race is drawing to a close. Many of the boats are making their final move and sprint toward the start-finish line. So we're going to take Doubles Pizza right to the start-finish. Many of the boats are crossed or making their final sprint toward the finish. And in just moments, we'll be bringing you the final results in Offshore C, Offshore D, as well as Offshore B and A of the 1991 Valvoline Powerboat Challenge from Chicago, Illinois.
in the foreground. I got to tell you, the David show was a beautiful thing to see.